All right, so we're back for episode 2 of MobLand. I just got done watching it, and I know you had seen it a little bit ago, maybe a couple of days. And, well, the first thing I want to say to you is that you may be right about Eddie having killed Tommy. Still not sure on that one, but a few things came out in this episode that I think lend some credence to that possibility. With that being said, what was your take on this most recent episode?
All right. Let's do my. I'm kind of a geek and an academic thing first. Uh, they're talking about Archie being a grass, and I knew
Mhm.
from context that grass meant informant, snitch, whatever word you want to use. But I was not really familiar with that type of slang. So I looked it
Mhm.
up, and there are two schools of thought. The one that makes the most sense to me is that it comes from the old term "a snake in the grass."
Mm.
So,
Okay.
uh, I appreciated that one. But then there was another that was in the 1930s when it started being used. I think they said the first written account of it was 32. Uh, Later on in the 50s, somebody speculated that it was based on rhyming words because grasshopper rhymed with copper, and apparently, you told the cops stuff, but I think the first one makes the most sense. It's a snake in the grass. So, uh, yeah, did a little bit of research and found out about that slang because I thought it was very interesting. And just thinking about it, I couldn't figure out why you would call someone a grass, but then, like I said, snake in the grass made sense. So I went with that.
So we open the scene with them cleaning up Archie's death, or we open this episode with them cleaning up Archie's death. And honestly, I was pretty impressed with how thorough they kind of were with that for the most part. Really, taking a look at everything, get rid of everything, fix what have you. And I I also was laughing a little bit because the same question kind of came about. It seems like everybody was a little confused. Why the hell did Conrad kill his best friend from the 70s? Apparently, particularly based on basically nothing other than Maeve, and we progress to Harry getting picked up by the police and the police questioning him, which is, I know there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the UK right now with their police and all that type of stuff, but the idea of the police kicking in your door, nabbing you out of your home, taking you to the police station, and not even charging you with a crime, simply wanting to ask you a few questions is a bit bizarre to me.
Well, I have several thoughts on Harry. So yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in those. One, it may simply be because of the constraints of a movie, but if if the Harrigans were a genuine representation of a crime family, then they are far too dependent on Harry. He
Mhm.
is the one man do everything. Without him, it doesn't look like that organization would float. Uh, so, the fact is that, yeah, he could be taken out by the cops. The fact is, he could be taken out by a heart attack or a car wreck or anything else. And if you only have this one asset to do every job that needs to be done, which, like I said, that seems to be his position, then you're causing a very weak link in your organization. I
Yeah.
do like the Harry's Thorough. I like all that stuff. I just think that putting so much reliance on one person in that sort of a situation is not good business acumen.
No, it's not. And I think we've seen a lot of that with the Harrigans in terms of them really not having the best handle on things. And, Fisk, the detective or officer, the cop that got Harry was kind of alluding to that as well. Like, this seems to be the downfall. And so it was from that discussion with the police that had Harry thinking that maybe Archie was a grass, as we had discussed previously, a snitch for the cops, possibly. I guess he could be both, technically. We don't know whether he was both working with the Stevensons and getting a cut of the fentanyl profit and also being a snitch for the police. Don't know. But let's assume that it's one or the other. That would mean that Maeve's still fucking wrong, right? Like, she still was wrong for having the reason why she killed him, or wanted Conrad to kill him. And I mean, it doesn't change the fact that maybe they wanted him dead, but the big thing to me is that Maeve was wrong.
I think that what the Harrigans could do right now to best cover themselves is to launch a search for Archie. And, this would be under the context of Archie's been my best friend my whole life. He was my right hand man, and now he's disappeared. Where the hell is he? It's misdirection,
Yeah.
but it would be misdirection to hopefully lure the police away from investigating them and started looking for who else might have taken Archie out.
Yeah.
A
And
real,
I think so far, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say a real quick thing on Maeve is I said it after the very first one, and now I'm doubling down on it. I think she's got dementia, or the early stages of dementia. She just, I mean, we never got to see what she was like in the 60 years before, uh, this current portion of their life. But I can't imagine they got to where they got with her making these kind of foolish predictions and uh, encouraging those actions on Conrad's part. It just, it doesn't seem like you could have reached the pinnacle that they've gotten to with that sort of judgment in place. And she, man, she's out there, and what she's doing with Eddie, and
It explains
talking
Eddie a
about
lot, doesn't it?
how, yeah, and she's talking about how you're just a regular petty criminal. You're not anything. It's I don't know. It seems to me like something something in there isn't right in her head, and I'm going to guess some sort of dementia or whatnot.
Yeah, very well could be. And we'll kind of get back to her in just a few, because I do want to talk about her and her influence on Eddie and all of that. Do you happen to have any ideas who the insider, the mole, may be? Because according to Fisk, the police officer, it sounded as though they got a tip, an anonymous tip from somebody with knowledge privy to what occurred, or something occurring involving Archie. It doesn't sound like the police actually have heard that Archie's dead or was shot by Conrad or any of that. But at the very least, they know something's going on with Conrad. And their plan is to follow Harry as Harry figures out who the mole is. And that's how they're hoping to potentially get a witness and everything. And this has now led to Conrad, for example, questioning even his own son, Eddie's father, a little bit about that, if he knew that Archie was a grass, and being a little bit
Yeah, if
more,
you talk to anyone.
or a little bit less trusting of even his own son now. So yeah, any ideas who may be into that?
Honestly, it could be absolutely no one. I mean, think about it. If Archie really was working as an informant and he was going to this meeting, he may have been supposed to meet with a police officer afterwards. And simply by not
No,
showing
hold
up,
on. The
that was
police
the inside
stated,
tip.
no. The police stated that they received the tip, and that's the thing, is they said in order to find out who the person was that had called them, they were going to follow Harry as he tries to flush out who that person is.
Oh, I didn't remember that part. Okay. Huh. Well, I don't know. Maeve?
Yeah, honestly, I I could see her.
Uh,
Uh, I don't really see that being it, but either A, in her demented state or something, possibly if that's actually, if she actually is having some episodes, or her, I don't know. At this point in her life, I don't see why she would go about trying to take control of the family or anything like that. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't actually. She's not even in my top three. I don't even think I really have any guesses as to it. I know it seems like maybe they're pointing a little bit towards Serafina, the daughter. I don't know about that either. It
I
could
thought
be
about
the other
that.
son. Could be the other son who seems to have a bit of a issue with the dad with Conrad, although it looks like he's trying to get into his good graces. So it also doesn't that
Well,
doesn't
yeah,
seem to
but how
play.
would he even know about it? He wasn't there.
He was there.
The one that spoke to Serafina?
Yeah, wasn't he there? It
No, I
was
don't
the two
believe so.
sons, the daughter, and the lawyer. Well, I don't think it was anybody in the room. That's my take on it. I don't know. I honestly have no idea who it may be. Hell,
What
it
about?
might. Well, actually, I know who it is. I know exactly what's going on.
Okay.
Just came to me. It's the Stevensons. Richie, if Archie was working with Richie Stevenson and getting cut to fentanyl, and he hadn't heard from him, but he knows that Archie was going to meet with the Harrigans, and now he's missing or gone, haven't heard from him. He gives a tip to the police that something's up, and Archie's missing. It's not enough for the police to really do anything because neither Richie nor the police know that Conrad killed Archie, and so this is kind of the hunt now. I bet you, I would have. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, at least at this point.
Okay. That or Kiko or Zosh. Isn't that his name? ZOSH?
Yeah, Zosha, I think, but yeah, I like. I actually, I'm glad you brought them up because I like those two. I particularly enjoyed whenever they were driving Eddie and just thought they should just kill him right now because he's such an idiot. That was pretty nice, and I liked the car chase.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
She's a good driver.
so kind of post that, right? We get there's obviously still Tommy's missing. This is a problem. Eddie is picked up by them, as we just mentioned. There's a car chase. They get to Conrad's house. And before we get into Eddie and Maeve, let's look at kind of what happened there. So Harry went to go meet with Richie, Tommy's father, and got threatened, essentially.
How naive does Harry have to be surprised that his daughter is now threatened? You are a criminal doing criminal things with criminals. You know, you're in a bad guy world. On top of that, this guy is freaking out about his child. Do you really think that your child's safe? Come on, man. That's that is a forever weak link for anyone who cares about their family. Is their family, and he had to have seen this coming. Or in real life, he should have seen this coming. If he didn't, it's just too damn naive.
Particularly because he's the front facing person for this family organization. He's the one doing
Exactly.
all the things. And so, if you're going to step up as the man at the plate that I'm dealing with, you're the boss right now. Well, you get to deal with the boss type things, including going after your family.
So the next thing that I thought regarding Harry was, why doesn't he just kill Conrad and Stevenson and he take over?
I was thinking about that a
I
little
mean,
bit. I mean, not so much in killing him, but again, he's the one running the joint, basically. With that being said, I don't know, maybe he doesn't want to. Or, I mean, a million other factors. The people because again, we haven't seen everybody, but we know there's henchmen. We've seen them standing in the woods there at the front gates and stuff. So we know that there's more people in their organization. So, maybe it's that. Not to mention, I don't know, maybe you can't get access to accounts and stuff. I mean, as much as there's illegal stuff going on, you have money laundering and it's stored in, legitimate places. So maybe you wouldn't have access to that.
Maybe, but I'm willing to bet that a little bit of torture would solve that problem. Not to mention with the resources he has, he could certainly hire hackers and whatnot. It just, I don't know. He seems to be, like I said, he's the everything man. He does every damn thing for the organization. He knows everything about that organization, and apparently most of what's going on in the Stevenson organization. And now he's being stuck in between these two idiots. Uh, I think Stevenson has a viable and legit reason to be angry. His son's missing. Uh, but Conrad's just losing his shit, mostly because of Maeve. And Stevenson is now threatening his family. I I don't know. I think in Harry's position, I would very, very much be considering, it's time for a career jump.
Yeah, I'll just say one thing I appreciated in this episode was the brief back and forth between Maeve and Conrad, where she's given her a whole explanation and everything, and he basically just says, you're the attorney, but I'm the judge in this still. So he's
Yeah.
still got some semblance of understanding and power. And yeah, so okay. I'm in agreement with you on the whole Eddie part. I liked that scene. I thought it was weird. Like I don't know what you were expecting, dude. Um, of course, your daughter's going to be up for grabs in this whole thing going on, and I guess we'll see. Well, it seems to have motivated him because he did then begin to do a few things. But simultaneously, while that scene's going on, we get the whole Maeve and Eddie. Eddie gets to the house and everything after getting chased and shot at and whatnot, and yeah, it seems as though Maeve has been ruining this child from the get go. And God, Eddie's behavior and his reaction to Harry's questioning about where Tommy was and everything made me think that okay, maybe there is a possibility that Eddie killed him, but still not 100% on it.
I want to know why they saved the body.
Yeah, okay. So at the end, this scene ends with, well, let me back up. Harry visits the two other boys that were with Tommy and Eddie that night after Eddie let him know. And he shows up, talks to them, basically get the gist that there was some connection. Again, this is what I brought this up last time in episode 1, is that it was weird that the bartender wouldn't know who Eddie Harrigan's family is if he knows Eddie. And at the very least, it doesn't look like anybody in the family, particularly Harry, knew about this club or that Eddie knew this club owner or anything like that. So I don't know. I'm still a little off on that one. But Harry goes to the club, beats the hell out of the bartender because he's under the impression that he may know where Tommy is. And yep, he's got Tommy. He apparently butchered him up, put him in a trunk, and apparently Tommy had a really large penis because that's what Zosha said at the end in Spanish was, what was it, Holy Mother of God, and something about having a giant horse wiener, and the bartender agreed. Maybe that was
Uh,
Portuguese, actually. I don't know what he was speaking. Anyway, do you think it was just the bartender? You think it was Eddie and the bartender's helping him? If so, why would he be doing that?
I still think Eddie had to be involved somehow because Tommy had already left the bar, right? If there's been a
Yeah.
stabbing and he was smart enough to get the hell away, why would he go back in?
Oh, I don't think he would. I mean, what we know, the last thing we see is that he and Eddie were walking away together. So don't know what happened after that.
Well, yeah,
So
they
this
were
would be
standing
the
by the
assumption,
river.
though, that what? Yeah, but this is the assumption what Eddie killed him somehow, then went back to the bar or called that bar owner after just having stabbed somebody in his bar and said, "Hey, can you help me out? Can you come butcher this kid and put him in your trunk?"
Yeah,
That's where I'm like, I don't get how that would have occurred.
I don't either. I don't know why the bartender would get involved. I mean, obviously there's things that we don't know, but he can't be too involved with the family because Harry didn't really know who he was.
Oh, I've
So
got a
yeah,
guess as to maybe why Tommy's dead and why the bar owners has done it. I might be wrong, but the only thing I could think of is Eddie Harrigan, who killed somebody in my bar, and I know the Stevensons don't like the Harrigans and vice versa. If I, kill this kid, then I could start a war between them. But it's a pretty thin thing to go on. Of like your only motivation is because this kid stabbed somebody in my bar. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I don't know why he would want to start a war between the families.
well, he may be pandering for future favors with Eddie. You know, if I back this kid now, he's the heir apparent of the Harrigan dynasty. So, later on it may prove
True, but
valuable to me.
why would there have been an issue then when Harry visited the place and making sure that nothing's going on? Although I will say, reflecting on it, it didn't seem like they put up much of a fight against it. They didn't care too much, and maybe they wanted to hold on to some leverage against Eddie. But
Or maybe they just capitulated because they knew that, Harry is not the person to play with.
yeah,
They may know more about Harry and the Harrigans than Harry knows about them.
could be.
Because if they know who Eddie is, right, then they know who Eddie's father is. It's quite likely that they know Conrad employs somebody like Harry, and then he materializes and it's Harry. I mean, who knows? We're only what, second episode in,
Yeah,
so there's a lot to be filled out. But yeah, it raises so many questions, uh, and they seem at this point, and that that's a key phrase there. At this point, they seem to be a third party. There's the
yeah.
Stevensons,
Fuck, they
there's
could
the
be the
Harrigans,
Mexicans.
and
Could be working with the Mexican cartel.
right, yeah, right.
Mm, yeah.
They could just be another organization that's got their own motives. So I still don't understand why you would save the body, though. That's let me
Oh,
commit a
maybe he
crime
wasn't.
and then keep all
Maybe he
the
had
evidence.
to. Maybe he's required to deliver evidence to the cartel.
Perhaps, but wouldn't that be like a hand or a head? Why would it be an entire trunk full of rotting body?
I don't know why not. If you're going to do
They
one
didn't
piece,
even
think
have
you're going to get in
anything
any
close
less
to
trouble
it.
having a part of the body versus the whole thing?
No, but it's less to stink up. It's less to carry.
Yeah, I mean, if it's in that sealed case, I don't know. Yeah, I guess we could speculate all day on that. Uh, I did want to say, so there was a little bit of a flashback. We know how Harry got involved with the family. Yeah, it looks like he and Conrad's son. What's his name? Eddie's father.
I always forget. But yeah, they were in juvie together.
Kevin, yeah, Kevin and Harry were in juvie together. It looked like, and that came to pass. And we've also found out that Kevin's wife, Eddie's mother, is the daughter of some relatively high-ranking politician, right? and I don't know if he and Harry had, or if she and Harry had any past relations or not, but she was definitely making passes at him at the bar.
Yeah, if Harry has any brains, he'll stay away from that.
Mm-hmm. Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about with it, or anything else that stood out for you, or any predictions?
I think Serafina's hot, and I like that she
And
seems
water is wet.
intelligent. I also enjoyed the somewhat comedic interchange between her and her brother. Uh,
Oh yeah,
Kind of gave me that
half
Joe Dirt
brother.
vibe, half brother. Yeah, that all I can think of is
Which
I'm your
actually, well,
sister.
that
I'm your sister.
speaking of that though, speaking of that, that answers our question or observation from last episode was that Serafina is definitely not liked by Maeve, it would appear, and well, here's probably why. It's the half daughter, so Conrad had slept with somebody else. We don't know whom.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll end that one
So
there.
what does Serafina do?
No.
What does Serafina do beyond the criminal aspect of the family?
It looked like she was selling jewels, correct? She had a jewelry designer or jewelry seller.
Don't know. I watched it and I'm clueless, so I'm just going to put that off to my brain defect. But yeah, I mean,
Oh,
obviously she's doing something, probably a legitimate business cover, but I'm not sure what it is.
yeah, I don't know either, and I don't know what Kevin does. So
I think Kevin, well, I don't know either, but I'm guessing he's just a full time criminal. And what's the other brother's name? The one
the
that's
other brother,
approached her?
yeah. Oh, what is his name? Brendan Harrigan is the third, or is the second brother.
Okay. I wonder who's the oldest in that group.
I
I would
think
guess
Brendan is.
probably think Brendan's the oldest. And do you think
And
Seraphina's the youngest, or is she in the middle?
no, she's the youngest.
Okay. Don't
All
know,
right.
but I think
Until next episode, I guess we'll find out.